Mexico City, a private dining room in an upscale restaurant. A Sinaloa cartel boss slides a suitcase across the table. Millions in cash, according to sworn testimony. The man who takes it isn't some dirty street cop. He is building Mexico's FBI, and within 5 years, he will command the country's entire federal police. The architect of Mexico's war on drugs, the man America will hand $1.6 billion, its intelligence files, and its total trust. There's one problem. He works for the cartel. Raid after raid, bust after triumphant bust. What looks like the war being won is Sinaloa wiping out its own competition with government firepower. Now jump forward. Brooklyn, New York, February 21st, 2023. A jury says guilty 5 times. Genaro García Luna, the man who ran the war on drugs, is now a convicted cartel operative. And for over a decade, nobody paying him acted. Not the DEA, not the FBI, not the White House. He shook hands in Washington while, according to the men who bribed him, suitcases changed hands in Mexico City. Both things are true. How did the cartel's man become America's most trusted drug warrior? And when the greatest double cross in the drug war finally collapsed, who actually caught him? Because it wasn't who you think. Genaro García Luna grows up working class in Mexico City, one kid among millions. He studies mechanical engineering, a discipline for people who trust diagrams more than people. In 1989, the young engineer joins CISEN, Mexico's civilian intelligence agency, and finds his native country, wiretaps, databases, surveillance networks. He isn't a gunfighter. He's the man in the windowless room who can tell you what your enemy said on the phone at midnight. 2001. President Vicente Fox wants a modern force to replace Mexico's rotten federal police, and Garcia Luna gets the assignment of a lifetime. Build it. The result is the AFI, the Federal Investigation Agency, modeled openly on the American FBI. New academies, new forensics labs, thousands of hand-picked agents. Picture the cadets on those parade grounds, 22-year-olds raising their right hands, sweating through an oath to take their country back from the cartels. They believe it. Their mothers believe it. And the man they're swearing it to holds the blueprints to every inch of the machine they're about to risk their lives inside. By the sworn account of the men who managed the Sinaloa cartel's money, this is exactly when the suitcases start. Jesus El Rey Zambada, brother of cartel co-founder El Mayo, the man who ran Mexico City for Sinaloa, would later swear under oath that he personally delivered millions of dollars to Garcia Luna. Picture the delivery the way Zambada described it. A private dining room in a Mexico City restaurant, the kind of place where the waiters know when to leave. Across the table sits the man building Mexico's FBI. Pressed suit, rimless glasses, the stillness of someone who has already read your file. The briefcase crosses the table, and his hands stay folded until it's done. The composure of a man who, in his own head, isn't taking a bribe at all. He's acquiring a client. Remember that restaurant? 17 years from now, it becomes evidence. Think about what that means. Sinaloa's money reached the architect while the concrete was still wet, and the AFI delivered. The double game had the perfect cover. Results. December 2006. A new president, Felipe Calderón, takes office and declares total war on the cartels. And to run it, he chooses the technocrat with the spotless resume, Genaro García Luna, now Secretary of Public Security, Commander of the Federal Police, master of the entire security apparatus. Calderón has always denied knowing anything, and no court has ever charged him. But if Sinaloa's money men are telling the truth, the new commander of the drug war is already owned. Across the border, Washington is watching this rising star. So is the cartel, and only one side knows exactly what its money has already bought. 2008. The Merida Initiative. The United States commits roughly $1.6 billion in security aid to Mexico. Black Hawk helicopters, surveillance aircraft, scanners, training, and something more valuable than all of it. Intelligence, case files, informant networks, real names of real people who risked everything to talk to the Americans, now flowing into his office. The man on the receiving end is Genaro García Luna. But before any of it moves, an American has to vouch for him. Picture the man who does. A career official, decades of interrogations behind him, certain he can read a liar across a table. García Luna gives him nothing to read. The numbers check out. The answers arrive complete, in order, without a flicker. Organized, precise. unshakable. At the door, the American shakes his hand, looks him in the eye, and stakes his own name on the single word that goes up the chain: convinced. Helicopters follow that word. Informant files follow that word. Remember it. It comes back with a jury attached. He is everywhere. Photographed shaking hands with Hillary Clinton, sitting across from FBI Director Robert Mueller. Put him inside one of those Washington rooms and watch him work. A skeptical official leans in with a hard question. He doesn't argue. He opens a folder, slides it across the polished table, and waits. It's the restaurant gesture, mirror flipped. In Mexico City, the case crosses the table carrying Sinaloa's cash. In Washington, it crosses carrying Sinaloa's rivals. Same hands, same half smile from the photographs. Two empires, each convinced this man belongs to it alone. And he is the only man alive that both sides of the same war are paying to run it. So what exactly did Sinaloa buy? According to the cooperators who testified, everything that mattered. Advance warning of operations, federal credentials for cartel operatives, protection for shipments through police-controlled territory. El Chapo had gunmen. El Mayo had networks. Garcia Luna had the state itself. He could now aim the entire war wherever he wanted, and he was about to pull the trigger. Here's how you rig a war. Mechanism 1, the tip-off. Federal police in body armor, helicopters up, an entire block sealed before dawn. Some of the men in that stack at the door are the cadets from the AFI parade grounds, 22 when they swore the oath, closing on 30 now, still running on it. They hit the safe house and find nothing. Beds still warm, half-eaten food on the table, phones snapped in half on the floor. One of them sweeps his flashlight across the warm sheets, and a thought arrives that he will never unthink. They knew before we geared up. He looks at the men beside him and wonders which one sold them. He never wonders high enough. Once is bad luck. Again and again is arithmetic. According to trial testimony, the Sinaloa cartel wasn't lucky. It was subscribed. Raid schedules, operation plans, the identities of informants, flowing from the top of the federal police straight into cartel hands. Stop on that last item. The identities of informants. Somewhere in Sinaloa, a man sat in a parked car with an American agent. Radio off, engine ticking, voice low, and gave up names, stash houses, routes, betting his life that the file holding his name would stay locked. Then files like his crossed the desk of the man Sinaloa was paying. There is a morning when your family stops hearing from you. A body the newspapers give one line, and an American agent who reads the report twice, sets it down, and can trace every desk that file crossed, including the one above everything he can reach. The war's most powerful weapon was surprise. It had been quietly sold. Mechanism 2 is darker, because some raids did land, and those are the ones you saw. Between 2006 and 2012, Mexican federal forces hammered cartel targets on national television. Washington called it progress. But the target list tells its own story. The Arellano Felix organization in Tijuana, Sinaloa's blood rivals for the border's richest crossing, dismantled piece by piece. The Juarez cartel, the enemy Sinaloa was fighting street by street for the city, hammered until it bled. The Beltran Leyva brothers, former allies turned competitors, hunted with a persistence no Sinaloa boss would ever feel. And Sinaloa? Across those same years, according to prosecutors and investigative reporters, its share of the trade exploded. The perp walk, the seized rifles laid out on folding tables, the minister at the podium accepting congratulations. You cheered a victory in the war on drugs. By the testimony that convicted him, what you actually watched was a hostile takeover. The state removing Sinaloa's competition one rival at a time. Meanwhile, the most hunted trafficker on earth, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, stayed a ghost through all of it. The men paid to catch him, cooperators testified, were part of the reason he stayed free. Underneath the winning war, prosecutors would eventually tell a jury. More than 1 million kilograms of cocaine moved north into American cities during his years in power. More than 13,000 kilo bricks a month, every month, for 6 straight years, riding in wheel wells and hidden truck compartments toward Chicago, Sinaloa's biggest American hub. Follow one brick the rest of the way. It comes out of a garage, gets cut and rebagged, and by Friday night it's moving hand to hand on a west side corner 5 minutes from an emergency room. 3 in the morning, that ER, a 19-year-old convulsing on a gurney, a triage nurse calling out a heart rate, a mother in a plastic chair gripping intake forms her eyes cannot hold on to. That corner is a lot closer to your house than the Sierra Madre. The better the war looked, the more thoroughly it was being lost. By 2011, the machine is flawless. It has survived audits, summits, elections, and the scrutiny of every 3-letter agency America has. Nothing in the system is built to catch him. He is the system. The machine gets broken by the one force nobody controls, the cartel itself, and the first crack opened years earlier. Rewind 3 years. January 2008. Federal agents arrest Alfredo Beltran Leiva in Culiacan, a senior boss inside Sinaloa's own alliance, taken on the cartel's home ground, in the city where nothing is supposed to touch them. Inside the organization, his brothers reach a conclusion that changes everything. El Chapo sold Alfredo out. Whether that's precisely what happened almost doesn't matter. They believe it, and in their world, belief is a death sentence. The Sinaloa alliance rips apart, faction against faction, and the cities pay for every day of the divorce. Ciudad Juarez, 2010. This is what the suitcases bought. Bodies hanging from highway overpasses at morning rush hour. Cardboard messages pinned to their chests. Commuters who have learned the etiquette of a war zone. Change lanes, eyes forward, drive to work. The morgue runs out of drawers, then out of floor. Now, slow down. Put one name on the cost. Maricela Escobedo, August 2008. Her 16-year-old daughter Ruby is murdered in Juarez. The killer confesses. 3 judges wave him out the door anyway. And something in Maricela goes quiet and hard, because if the most lavishly funded security state in Mexican history will not hunt her daughter's confessed killer, then she will, alone, across state lines, a mother running her own manhunt through a country at war. She tracks him down. She marches through the streets with his photograph held over her head. She plants herself on the plaza outside the government palace in Chihuahua. Day after day, one woman against all that granite, demanding the system do the single thing it exists to do. December 16, 2010. The same plaza. A gunman walks up, the cameras catch it. A mother running for the palace doors, the doors not opening. That is the entire recording. A few seconds of stone between her and the building where safety was supposed to live. Stay on those doors. Tens of thousands of Mexicans die in the violence unleashed after 2006, and Maricela spent the last 2 years of her life begging the system to care about exactly one of them, while the man commanding it, according to the men who paid him, was collecting Sinaloa's suitcases. Then, the story speeds up. The Beltran Leivas carry something out of the Civil War more dangerous than gunmen. Knowledge. How the protection worked. Who was on the payroll. They start talking. Detained gunmen repeat the claim in interrogation rooms. Then the underworld starts publishing. One morning, the commuters look up and there it is. Bedsheet banners lashed to pedestrian bridges, narcomantas, block capitals in spray paint, some carrying his name, all screaming the same accusation. Mexico's top cop belongs to Sinaloa. Think about who's saying it. The first people to publicly accuse America's most trusted drug warrior of working for the cartel are cartel men. And what does the system do with that information? It protects him. The accusations are waved off as narco disinformation. The logic is a perfect trap. The more the cartel's enemies accuse him, the more loyal he looks. Then, in 2010, the whispers become a book. Investigative journalist Anabel Hernandez publishes Los Señores del Narco, a sourced, methodical account alleging Garcia Luna's ties to Sinaloa. The thesis a Brooklyn jury will confirm 13 years later is sitting in bookstore windows in Mexico City. Price, a few hundred pesos. The bill arrives before the applause. Death threats, specific enough to take seriously. Then armed protection. Bodyguards sweeping the street before she steps out her own front door. No route driven twice. A reporter living like a protected witness in a country where the police answer, at the top, to the man on her cover. She keeps reporting anyway. This story owes her a debt that takes 13 years to pay. And Garcia Luna? Calderon keeps him. Washington keeps working with him. The aid keeps flowing. Inside the American agencies, officials had doubts, memos that went up the chain and came back down unanswered. But a clock he cannot hear is already running. In a Mexican maximum security prison sits Jesus El Rey Zambada, the man from the restaurant, arrested in 2008, fighting an extradition order to the United States that he is going to lose. Banners on bridges couldn't touch Garcia Luna. A witness in a federal courtroom is a different weapon entirely. By 2012, Calderon's term is ending, and with it, Garcia Luna's command. 12 years at the summit of Mexican security, millions in alleged cartel cash, and a record so clean it squeaks. Untouchable by any measure, which is what makes his next move so extraordinary. The untouchable man packs up his life and relocates to the one country on earth with both the jurisdiction and the appetite to cage him. He moves to America. 2012, Miami, Florida. Genaro García Luna's new life looks like a brochure. He brings his family, his wife, Linda Cristina Pereira, the marriage that predates the medals and the motorcades, and their 2 children, and sets up as a private security consultant, selling the one product he holds in infinite supply: expertise in fighting the drug war. Companies are formed. Contracts arrive. He lives wealthy and comfortable on the water, the unhurried existence of a man with absolutely nothing to hide. Sit with that choice. A guilty man with ordinary instincts runs somewhere without an extradition treaty. Garcia Luna buys waterfront comfort, a domestic flight from the Brooklyn courthouse where Sinaloa's captured bosses sign their cooperation deals. Either he has convinced himself the testimony will never surface, or he has made a colder bet that even if it does, nobody will act. History so far has backed him every single time. But if the cooperators are telling the truth, picture his actual mornings. Coffee on a terrace no public salary he ever drew could explain. Boat traffic, kids out the door to American schools. And underneath it, running always, the arithmetic no career intelligence man can switch off. Every boss arrested in Mexico is a man who might trade a name for years of his life. There is exactly one name worth more than all the others: his. Through those same years, a pipeline is running. A government jet drops through the clouds over New York. Marshals walk a shackled man across the tarmac, a plaza boss. It always ends in the same windowless room in Brooklyn. A prosecutor, a federal agent, a cooperation agreement sliding across the table. Sign here, testify. Buy back years of your life. Years ago, in a Mexico City restaurant, the suitcase slid one way. Now the paper slides back. In 2012, the extradition fight ends, and El Rey Zambada makes that walk himself. The man who swore he personally handed Garcia Luna the suitcases. His secrets have a name in them. The trap doesn't need to be sprung, it just needs a trial. November 2018, Brooklyn. The United States finally puts El Chapo on trial, and prosecutors begin calling their cooperators. On the stand, under oath in front of the world's press, El Rey Zambada starts talking about a restaurant in Mexico City. Zambada testifies that he personally delivered millions of dollars in bribes to Genaro García Luna. Payments, he swears, that began when Garcia Luna ran the AFI and continued into his years as security minister. For a second, nothing moves. Then a defense lawyer's pen stops mid-note. Reporters start shouldering through the courtroom doors with phones already out, and by nightfall, the name leads every broadcast in Mexico. The image from the beginning of this video, a suitcase sliding across a restaurant table to the man building Mexico's FBI, is now part of the official record of a United States federal trial. 8 years after Anabel Hernandez put the accusation in a book, the cartel itself says it under oath. And in Miami, Garcia Luna does not run. The man who understands better than anyone alive how fugitives get caught stays exactly where he is, in his house under his name, inside the system, as if leaving would be the confession. Federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York, the same office burying El Chapo, quietly build a case. A grand jury, a sealed indictment. Cocaine trafficking conspiracy at its heart. 5 federal counts by the time he faces a jury. All they need is for Garcia Luna to still be reachable. He is. He's been living the American dream for 7 years. December 2019. Dallas, Texas. The arrest takes minutes and looks like almost nothing. Helicopters, sealed blocks, battering rams, all that theater is for other men. FBI agents walk up to Genaro García Luna on American soil. Badges, a few quiet words, steel closing around the wrists of the man who once sat across from the Bureau's own director trading intelligence. Then procedure swallows him. The fingers that signed for Black Hawk helicopters are rolled, one by one across an ink pad, and 7 years of Florida sunshine end under the fluorescent hum of a federal processing room, a docket number where the titles used to be. And in a house on the Miami water, a phone starts ringing. The hook of this video made you a promise. It wasn't who you think. It took Sinaloa's own men to say out loud what the money never showed. You already know how the trial ends. Guilty 5 times. What you don't yet know is how the word of confessed killers became strong enough to bury the most decorated security official Mexico ever produced, because it almost wasn't. January 2023. A federal courthouse in Brooklyn. United States versus Genaro García Luna. He arrives each morning in a suit and rimless glasses, grayer than in the Washington photographs, and before he sits, he turns to find Linda Cristina in the gallery. Same seat every day, the woman who married a mechanical engineer and ended up here. Nothing about him reads cartel operative. He looks like what he always looked like, a bureaucrat. That is the defense's whole case, wearing a suit. The prosecution puts the cartel on the stand. A parade of Sinaloa insiders, men who ran plazas and moved tonnage and never sat in a room together, each reconstructing a piece of the con from a different angle. One remembers raid warnings. Another remembers federal credentials issued to cartel gunmen. One remembers cash changing hands at a car wash. Different years, different rooms, the same machine. They pressed the money too. Prosecutors argued the Miami lifestyle itself was a confession. Arithmetic no government salary could explain. Then the defense plays its card, and the uncomfortable truth? It's a real card. There are no recordings of Garcia Luna taking a bribe. No photographs. No marked bills. No seized suitcase with his fingerprints on the handle. Every accuser is a confessed criminal. Kidnappers, traffickers, killers, each testifying with years of his own sentence on the line. On cross-examination, the defense makes them say it out loud. The murders they ordered, the deals they signed, the decades of prison that evaporate if the government stays happy. Each time, the defense lawyer turns toward the jury box and lets the silence make the argument. This is the man asking you to destroy a minister. You cannot convict on the word of monsters. When its turn comes, the defense calls a single witness, his wife, on the stand, defending the family's finances, convinced. In 2008, an American vetting official staked his name on that word, and helicopters and case files followed it. Now, 12 citizens must walk out convinced of the mirror image, that the killers told the truth and the decorated minister was the lie. The jury goes out. A day passes, no verdict. Garcia Luna returns the next morning, buttons his jacket, finds Linda Cristina, sits. Another day. Nothing. This is where it almost dies. Because every silent hour is an hour 12 strangers are failing to agree that killers make honest witnesses, and it takes exactly one holdout to hang the jury, collapse the case, and write the ending where the most decorated security official Mexico ever produced walks out of Brooklyn vindicated. In the hallway, reporters rough out both versions of the story. Nobody knows which one they're covering. Then, on the morning of February 21st, 2023, a note comes out of the jury room, and the courtroom fills with the particular silence of a verdict about to be read. The jurors file back in. Not one of them looks at the defense table. The foreman stands. Count 1. Guilty. Garcia Luna is on his feet, jacket buttoned, holding the bureaucrat's posture. Count 2. Guilty. His hands stay flat on the table in front of him. Count 3, count 4, count 5. Guilty. 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 He makes the same quarter turn he has made every morning of this trial and finds Linda Cristina, same seat, last day, one hand pressed over her mouth. And whatever passes between them takes 2 seconds before the marshals are beside him. On all counts, cocaine trafficking conspiracy included, Genaro García Luna becomes the highest-ranking Mexican official ever convicted in an American courtroom. 12 strangers convinced, The word that once opened Washington's vaults has just closed a cell door, and the verdict reaches backward through everything you've watched. Every triumphant bust on the evening news between 2006 and 2012. A federal jury has now ruled on what you were cheering. The enemy winning, in uniform, with your money. The cadets who kicked indoors on schedules already sold. A jury has finally told them who they were swearing that oath to. And Maricela Escobedo, shot dead on a palace plaza while demanding that Mexico's police do their job. The security state she spent her last 2 years begging was commanded, at its summit, by a man a jury has now found worked for the traffickers. Annabel Hernandez collects her debt too. 13 years after she put his name on a book cover and started checking her street for gunmen before breakfast, 12 jurors ratified her reporting under the highest standard American law has. She was never crazy. She was early. She is still under armed protection. He built the police. He ran the war. He shook the hands. Guilty 5 times. But the verdict stops at one man. The machine that made him possible never entered the courtroom, and nobody has told you whether it's still running. October 2024, sentencing day. The judge is Brian Cogan, and if that name sounds familiar, it should. Cogan presided over the trial of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Same courthouse, same bench. First the master, then, according to the verdict, the servant. Before sentence is passed, Garcia Luna finally speaks. He stands and tells the court he is an innocent man, that the witnesses against him are criminals who bought back their freedom with his name. He has never wavered from it. Cogan hears him out. Then the number, 38 years. Garcia Luna is in his 50s. Run the arithmetic and his release date is an old man's date if he lives to see it. In the gallery, Linda Cristina hears the rest of her marriage measured out in a single sentence. He is appealing. But as of now, the commander of the drug war will spend what remains of his usable life inside the prison system of the country he played. Then the money. In 2025, a court ordered him to hand over roughly $2.4 billion. Whether a cent is ever collected, the number is the point. Billion. With a B. A cell for the man, a 10-figure bill for the empire he served. If you came for justice, there it is. But you already know who turned him in. The DEA partnered with him. The FBI's director shook his hand. Washington wired him $1.6 billion across 2 administrations. The whole time, the truth sat with a journalist holding a book and a cartel holding a grudge. The machine never flagged him because the machine measures wins, and he delivered wins that belonged to Sinaloa. He never had to beat the system. He ran it. Strip away the courtroom ceremony, and what remains is a coin flip that landed face up. Nothing about the machine has structurally changed. The aid still flows. Trust is still the currency of the partnership. And the next time a triumphant bust leads the news, you'll have no independent way of knowing whose victory you're watching. So, was he the exception? Or just the one the cartel decided to burn? Nobody in Washington has ever answered that. And it has a sequel. While Garcia Luna was selling the war from the top, another man was running a cartel operation from inside the FBI itself, recruited, paid, and armed by the Bureau while he worked for the other side. That story is on your screen now. Watch it. Then decide for yourself, exception or template.